the first minute had better be gold, because people will listen to a 3-hour podcast, but if they're not sucked in right away. So that's like a challenge for us is, do we manufacture that in this podcast? Do we like say, okay, Jason, we're about to start, and the first 60 seconds it's got to be really good, and that way we'll hook people? Or do we just have genuine conversation? Hello and welcome to this episode of the Proclamation podcast. I'm your host, Luke Nolan, and we are here with my good friend, Jason. Thank you for being here.
How you doing?
Very good.
Hello, all.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But not long enough.
Not long enough.
I'm just kidding.
Thanks. I'll just go. Mm-hmm.
Jason and I met at Starbucks, and we hit it off pretty quick. And we've been friends ever since. In the interview.
I feel like we hit it off in the interview.
I had shorts on. I remember thinking, I won't get this job because I have shorts on.
I remember giving you the job because you
said I wanted to work.
Yeah, it was your work ethic.
Else.
You told a story, about Africa and your work ethic. And I was like,
really?
Okay, yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I immediately turned and was like, we have to hire this guy.
That's awesome.
That's the way this is going to work.
It was a good run at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much was a gallon of gas in 2007 when I started working at Starbucks?
It's 7? I feel like it was expensive in 2007. Don't you think it was like close to $4?
A year later, everyone coming to apply there had a college degree because of the crash. And all of a sudden, do you have a college degree?
Nope.
I remember thinking all these guys without college degrees are now supervising and managing a bunch of people who have college degrees.
Yeah, that's usually
because they couldn't get jobs.
Mm-hmm. It's like I've always had friends that worked in the serving industry, and my ex-wife worked in the serving industry when I worked at Starbucks. She made all the money. I didn't make the money, but you'd constantly see people going to school and serving, get their degree, and
wouldn't stop.
They'd be like, here we go. I finally got my degree. I'm out of this place, and throw their apron down on the ground, walk out like I'm done, like don't want to work there anymore. And within a short period of time, they'd all come back.
Yeah. Well, you grow to love the busyness of it too. My wife says that she misses Yard House all the time because she misses the fast pace.
Yeah, and you walk home with money every night.
Every night.
Yeah.
Literal cash dollars in your pocket.
Yeah, I mean, my ex-wife we would have stacks of paychecks that we hadn't deposited yet.
Them.
Yeah. Just we're living off of tips.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I bought a house on tips. We literally got approved on stated income from her tips.
Dang.
Yeah.
So you reported him. So a lot of people don't do that.
Most.
You didn't put.
No servers report all of it. Yeah.
What's the biggest tip you ever remember her getting?
Probably a couple $100, I think. She worked at a nice restaurant, so she got good money.
Fine dining.
Yeah, California fine dining. Fine dining where
Was it the French Laundry?
No.
Was it Gavin Newsom who tipped her?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Not that close. But California fine dining is different than everyone else's fine dining. They still, even if it's a really nice place, they still show up in like shorts.
Yeah.
And flip-flops. You know, right.
I remember my sister's boyfriend at the time telling me that his dad was not allowed into the Ruth's Chris in Honolulu or Maui or whatever, somewhere in Hawaii. They wouldn't let him in because he didn't have a jacket. And he was like,
at Ruth's Chris?
Yeah.
Really?
And he was like, I own that like resort, or he was like,
right.
He had a lot of money. And whatever line he pulled, they were like, yeah, we don't care. You don't have a jacket.
Oh, yeah?
You can't come in.
He was like on the...
So I think he went and bought a jacket or got a jacket from somebody.
Sausage King of Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. I've rolled all the sausages
What
this
was
side
that
of the
name
Mississippi.
from Ferris Bueller? What was it? Do you remember? Did you watch that movie?
I've seen it, yeah, but I
Anybody
don't
know
remember
that movie? That movie's, I can't remember the name.
That's a generational defining movie.
Yeah, and it lasts forever.
It's like for my generation, it's Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, see, my generation couldn't pick up on that movie.
It just was
Napoleon
stupid to
Dynamite.
everybody else.
Yeah. I get it now, but it took forever for me. Like, I've been forced to watch it over and over and over again.
By your kids or what?
Yeah, just whoever's around. I thought it was great. And I just watched it again.
I think I saw it once, maybe twice.
I felt that way about, was it called Sideways? The wine movie? Did you ever see that movie? That one like got really good reviews and it was supposed to be really good.
That's not even ringing a bell in my backlog.
Yeah, it got great reviews and everybody was into it and it was like really a popular movie at the time and we all went and we sat down to watch it and all of us were staring at each other like, and we all said like, I don't think we're old enough to get this movie. I think this is for the generation above us.
Oh, an older generation.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever walked out of a
Yeah, there
movie?
is an older generation than me, by the way.
I know.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
I know. I have a dad, you know.
I'm not as old as
you're
your
not
dad.
quite old enough to be my dad.
No.
Older brother. You're like older brother status.
There you go.
Since I'm the oldest,
that'll work.
You're like my older brother.
Older brother you never had?
Yeah.
There you go.
I could have loved an older brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always ask my parents, why didn't you start having kids earlier? Because a few of my close friends who were kids of my parents' friends were just a little bit older than me. And that's, when you're like 10 to 18 years old, someone being a little bit older than you is enough for them to hold over your head.
Sure.
Like in a way that
2 months.
Like before you're 10, I'm just throwing out numbers here, obviously. But like, yeah, if you're a day older than me, you're like, you have to listen to me.
I'm 2 weeks older.
Yeah.
Right.
Boom, get down.
Right.
And so I always ask my parents, why didn't you have kids? Because they didn't have kids. So they were like 27. I think my mom was 27 when I was born.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, come on, guys.
What was their answer to that one?
They didn't get married till they were a little bit older. They got married in their mid 20s and their friends got married when they were like 19.
And they waited a little
19, 21. So they all waited a little bit, but my parents got married later.
It's actually smart.
It is smart.
It's a smart way to do it.
People
Enjoy
ask
yourself
me a
little
lot,
bit.
like if I'm having a hard time being a dad, and I'm like, maybe it's because I'm 33, but not really. It's awesome.
Yeah. Do it when you're 20.
How was that?
It was actually the best thing that ever happened to me because it made me get my life together. But at the same time, it was swimming upstream till I was 30.
Yeah.
I always say my son and I grew up together.
You were learning the same things.
Yeah. Well, we were like trying to figure out life together. But the good part is now that he's 20 years old now and we're close enough. Yeah. Does that make your head spin? He's 20. He'll be 21 in June. And we hang out together all the time. And we get along great.
Yeah.
And we're close enough in age to, where I'm not so much older than him that we're just, there's a huge age gap and we can't find anything to connect on. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's harder for you to maintain the I'm your father or for him to maintain like I'm not your peer?
Never.
Or do you guys just go with the flow?
Never. The roles are well established.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was just saying that like I always tell everybody I got real, like when they were younger and we'd all go out together, everybody would always say like, wow, your children are amazing. You have really well-behaved children. They're fantastic.
Or they were.
No, they are. They absolutely are. And I would always say, oh yeah, I got really lucky. you know. We got lucky that we have 2 really well-behaved kids, but everyone's reply back to that is like, it's the way they're raised, you know. That's
luck doesn't have anything to do
and I
with
never, I mean, I was stern with my kids, but I wasn't overly strict. I never laid a hand on him. I think I had to spank Spencer once in his entire life.
Wow.
The fear of dad was strong in my house, and it was just solely based upon presence.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yep.
stature and presence. That was it. Just walked with a certain something to me that they were like, nope, not going to test that.
Have you read Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life?
No.
Or 12 Rules for Living?
I've listened to a lot of his stuff. I've listened to a lot of his talks.
I think he's awesome.
I haven't read his books.
His first rule is stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Yeah.
And he talks about the lobster. And I think a lot of people are going through life as lobsters that have been defeated. And they do need to learn how to have that presence. Doesn't mean you have to be intimidating, but you just need to be...
Well...
You just need to be there and be who you are. Have you read Animal Farm?
No.
You should. You would love it. They do that in Animal Farm.
I've always been a really big reader. I read a lot.
Yeah.
I find as I'm getting older, I'm having a hard time reading. And I actually went and just got my eyes tested because I was like, maybe that's what's going on. And he's like, no, your eyes are fine. And I was telling him at the doctor, I feel like I'm constantly doing this. I was like, every time my wife goes, oh, look at this, and hands me her phone, I'm constantly going back.
You're not focusing.
And he goes, well, yeah, it's because she's doing this. And when you hold your phone, typically people hold their phone right here because it's small print.
Sure.
But this isn't, he's like, you're seeing perfectly fine at reading level, which would be like where your computer screen is if you're sitting down, or like if you hold a book, you hold it here. But for some reason, we put our phones all the way up to our nose when we're looking at it. And he goes, you're ever so slightly, I think, nearsighted, but you're pretty much fine. Like, you don't need any, like, if you wanted to get glasses, if you wanted correction, you could just go to Rite Aid and get, whatever. But my point is that I kind of stopped reading as much as I used to because it
was bothering you.
Yeah, I was having a hard time concentrating, keeping focus, and like I was getting headaches and it was bothering me. And I was like, maybe it's my allergies. I don't know what's going on. I'm busy all the time. But COVID. I also think that I don't read as much anymore because I'm just falling victim to technology. As much as I hate it.
Yeah. Well, it's addicting.
It is.
Reading's not as nearly as addicting.
Oh, unless you can reading's not designed to be addicting.
Yeah.
Technology is. I forget what brought it up, but I was just saying today that we were talking about participation trophies and how participation trophies have taken away people's drive to achieve something.
We're all going to get the same.
To accomplish. Well, it's not even just that. It's that if you show up, you get rewarded. And now, like, say you do that in T-ball, right? To like 5, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. They grow up, and when they face the real world, they find out that things are hard, and that you run into hardships, and that you're going to fall down flat on your face. And then if you want to achieve your goals, you have to continuously keep getting up and going forward, no matter how many times you fall. And if you're smart, you learn from your mistakes and you don't make the same ones over and over and over again. But the way that we are molding our children with our systems and with the technology and with everything that's going on in the world around us right now is we're teaching kids to give up quickly. I've always said way back when, like video games, when they started doing respawning in video games is where it all started to go south.
Oh, thanks, Halo.
Think about, like, when's the last time you played a Nintendo game? Like a real Nintendo game.
It's been a long time.
Okay, so you start out and you get 2 lives.
Then you're done.
And then you start over, right? So do you know how hard it is to beat that game? It would take, when you were a kid, a year, Like,
totally.
Now, kids buy a game, when they were going to GameStop and buying games before they were downloading games, but they'd go and they'd get a game, and they'd come home and they'd beat it like within the first 30 hours.
Yeah.
because you have the endless amount of chances. And I think that we're teaching children that you don't have to try hard because you can just keep going. Like you're not gonna fail.
You're invincible.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when they find out that they're not invincible, then they don't want to try. I fought with my son so bad all the way through with school and every grade, honestly, like just battled. It wasn't until after he graduated high school and a little bit longer after that he finally started to show some drive and like take life by the horns. He didn't want to try. Like he told me like, I didn't want to fail. So I thought everything was going to be too hard. So I didn't try. I didn't want to play baseball because I thought it'd be hard and I wasn't going to be good at it. And I would tell him all the time, like, yeah, nobody's good at it. You got to learn, you got to practice, you got to try, you got to build the skill. This is life. And those are words coming out of my mouth, but everything that we were giving our kids and showing our kids as entertainment and like the things that they were interested in life, we're not teaching them that in any way, shape, or form. He finally got it. And funny story, it burned all the way down to me threatening to throw him out over and over again by the time he was like 20 years old, 19 years old. And, I would give him a deadline and say, if you don't have a job by this time, or if you're not doing this in school at this time and blah, blah. And because he was going to college and I was like, look, you don't have, like, if you're not feeling it, then you need to go get a job. Right. Yeah. And he just wasn't really doing anything. And I would take his stuff away and basically ground him, and he would just accept it and wait it out. And it finally came down. Like, I was like, I'm tired of giving you empty threats. We both know I'm not going to throw you out because I've missed deadlines over and over and over again. I've been so close. So I finally came to a point that I said, all right. And I went and bought a tent. And I went out and I said, you have 1 week I said, the thing that makes me so mad, Spencer, is that I know I could go out today and go get a job.
Yeah.
Today, I could get a job. I could leave this morning and come home with a job by the end of the day, even in this climate that we're in right now.
There are now hiring signs all over the place.
Like, you can get a minimum wage job. It just depends on what you're willing to do. This is how I felt about money my entire life.
I knew it was crazy in this environment when, like all the fast food places, they have a sign on the street and it usually says like Big Macs 2 for $1 or whatever, right? That's way antiquated of a number. Sorry.
Sure.
2 for $5.
It's okay.
But now those say now hiring.
Yeah.
$17 an hour.
Well,
something crazy.
So why is that?
You could go get a job right now.
But why do they have gigantic signs on the street?
Desperate. No one wants to work.
There you go.
My first boss says, I said, you need to hire some young people to train them up to take your place because you want to retire in the next 10 years. And he said, I can't find anybody who wants to work.
Right.
For $20 an hour.
Right.
And take over a business.
Right.
That grosses $600,000 a year.
Well.
Can't find anybody who wants to work.
Mm-hmm. But to finish the tent story before we go down that road.
Sorry.
It's okay. Is that I told him you have set amount of time. I dropped the tent on the floor in the living room and he just looked at it. And I said, you have this amount of time to do what I told you to do, or you're going to live in the backyard. So I know I'm not going to throw you out in the street because without giving you my background, like I ran away from home at a time when I was very, very young and like lived on the street, and I just can't bring myself, like, as much as I was like, I did it, he can do it. Like, I just couldn't put my kid out. Like, I knew that he had nowhere to go. Like, what's he going to do? Like, the best case scenario is that he would go to one of his friends that live with their parents and kick it on their couch. And then I'm just letting my child become someone else's burden. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. So I said, you're going to live here. And I think I gave him like a week, and the week went by and he came home and there was a tent erected in the backyard. And I was like, this is where you live. Like, you can use the restroom. You can use the kitchen. That bedroom right there is now your closet. You get to go in there and get your stuff and change your clothes, and that's it. And if I see you hanging out in there, like that, we're going to have a war. And he said, okay. And he went out and he got into it was raining.
You were like,
he went out and got into he was getting ready to get into the tent.
Bring the rain.
Actually, he was actually just getting ready to get into the tent while it was raining, and the tent had taken on like 1.5 inches of water. It had a leak somewhere. So I was like, okay, like, I'm not a monster. I'm not going to make you sleep in the rain. So
you're so nice.
I know, I'm a softie. I told him how to get the water out of it, and I made him put it in the garage. And I said, you can sleep in the garage until it stops raining, and then you're going in the backyard. And of course, it just kept raining like for the rest of the week.
I'm just impressed you had space in your garage for a tent. You must park your car in your garage.
Yeah, I moved my cars out of the garage and I put a gym in there.
Nice.
I have like a full-blown gym in the garage. Like, anything that the gym has, I have now.
That's awesome.
So he was in there, but at that time I was smoking cigarettes. So I was constantly in and out of the garage because I would go through the garage outside to smoke because I didn't smoke in my house. Mm-hmm. And so I was in and out of the garage all the time and I'm up very late. So he'd be in there trying to sleep and the garage door would open while he's in there. And then the garage door would close, like literally just over and over and over again. And then kind That's right. 7 a.m. Like the garage door opens and I go outside and I'm drinking coffee and like waking up or whatever. And then I'd go over and bang on his tent and be like, time to get up. And it took him exactly 7 days to get a job. From as soon as he got into that tent, 7 days later, he had a job, and his whole entire demeanor and outlook on life and his momentum and everything changed from that point forward. And now he's solid. He awesome. Works out every day. He works.
Has he got some meat on his bones yet?
Oh yeah. I tell him all the time, I'm like, you kind of look like a little Captain America going on right here. No, he's pretty buff. I was like, dude, awesome. You're looking pretty good. You got it going on. He's pretty stacked. Like, I'm upping his weight now to see if we can put some more mass on him, but he's pretty built.
Nice.
Yeah.
The whole reason I started the podcast was to expand people's worldview.
Sure.
So George Floyd got killed. People started getting mad at each other. And I thought we were having conversations and they thought I was being racist. And so.
Because that's what it is now.
And so that's why I'm like, well, let's sit down because you've expanded my worldview. You personally have expanded my worldview. That's because we've had conversations.
Right.
So this conversation should expand my worldview further and the worldview of people watching. And instead of getting angry, they should sit down and have a conversation.
And also, I
don't care if you have it over Zoom. Great.
I think the biggest problem is that people need to look.
Let's talk.
Do their own research on things. If someone has a conflicting opinion with you, if you don't agree with them, if you think that they're lying, if you think that what they're saying is racist or anything, like whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Look it up. Look it up on your own. Do your own research. Stop relying on other people's information that they're giving you. Like, we have this huge like regurgitation of the same information, and that can be good at times. You know, you can regurgitate good ideas. That's how they grow and expand. But
we stand on the shoulders of giants.
I am like the king of research. I dig into everything. Like, I'm constant. Like, the one thing that you will hear out of my mouth and my home constantly all the time is that real? And then here I go digging through things.
My wife, I drive her crazy because when we're watching movies, I have to constantly be looking up the actors. What else were they in? Where'd they grow up? And, they're from the same town as this person. Mm-hmm. I want to know more about them. I always have this thing in my head of like, what if I ran into Jason on the street and I'm like, you're that guy from the King of Queens. I don't remember your name.
Right.
And I would be like, feel so terrible because they're a person. Not because I'm starstruck, but because I want to acknowledge that they're not that person that they were acting. They are Tom Hanks. They are, whatever. Sigourney Weaver.
Because you're always very respectful of everybody. That's your personality.
Yeah. But I think that it expands my appreciation for the film too, because I realize this person has had a lot leading up to this before they're in this role. There's other things that made them the actor that they were to get to this point.
Yeah.
And so I think that what you're saying about research and understanding, like maybe what social media is doing that is so unjust to our brains is it's teaching us to be satisfied with the most base fulfillment of our physical need. So we need like serotonin and all these things, like, right, these chemicals that are spurred on by social media. We need those, but we're supposed to be getting them from people, not from devices.
Right. And I mean, that
it's like the difference in porn and sex.
I would say that
you should not survive on the first one for your entire life. You will be miserable.
Right.
You need to experience the real thing. You need to experience what it's actually to travel.
Like, there you go.
If possible,
and I think that this is the difference between the flaw.
Watching Discovery Earth for your entire life.
I think it's the difference between the flaw of big, like, say, social media, big tech, and the flaw of, well, let's separate them. It's the difference between the flaws in technology and the flaws in these corporations. Like, I think that what the corporations are doing to us is different than what technology is doing to us. I think technology is responsible for like the fact that no one knows how to talk to each other anymore. We're all awkward now. People don't like to interact in person. Like, you know, if you call, I still call people sometimes. You call people, they get offended, or they won't answer the phone, or they'll text you and be like, what are you doing?
Afterwards.
Right. Like, it's making it so that we don't know how to interact with each other. And everything that you do when you're, if you're, all right. So if you want to be in power, right? If you want to run everything and you want to figure it all out, and there's a government and there's a system, and the whole world has their own way of doing things, and you want them all to do things your way, you're not going to be able to snap your fingers in order to be able to make all these people do what you want them to do. And it takes a long period of time.
Right. But it's accelerating exponentially because of technology.
Well, that's how no matter what, that's how it goes. It starts slow, and then as it goes, it goes in
snowballs.
It gets bigger and faster. There's a video, Yuri, whatever his name is, he's a KGB agent who defected and came here in 1984, and he did a video that's probably about 9 minutes long of him describing on, I think it was like 60 Minutes at that time, back in the late 80s. Well, I said in 84. He describes the demoralization of the KGB's blueprint of demoralizing a country before they come in and take over. And the demoralization of the country, and exactly step by step how they do it. And you can look it up. It's anywhere. And it's super interesting to look at it. But he says that it takes 15 years, takes a couple generations, 15 years to demoralize an entire country. But once you get to a certain point, you've demoralized that country and those people.
Sorry, I think I misspoke. Are you saying to make it without morals, or to like bring them down?
Bring them down.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that you can take them over.
Gotcha. Make them weak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you get to a certain stage, once you've gotten to this certain stage in this platform that he's describing, it doesn't matter what you bring to these people anymore. They've been indoctrinated to the point that, like, you can bring them irrefutable evidence and put it right in front of their face. They will absolutely 100% refuse to take that as fact. They believe what they believe, no matter what. If you talk to journalists and you look in, they'll tell you, like, it's not like it used to be. Like, it used to be that, you got 2 months to do a cover story and like figure this out and do investigative. Like, there's no such thing as investigative journalism anymore. Like, you don't get it. The papers, the corporations that own these media companies will not give it to you. You can't do it.
You got to be faster.
There is no faster. You get 90 seconds. Like, if you do, I've done a little research and I've listened to some podcasts and like watched some guys and the interviews with journalists, and they tell you, like, you have 90 seconds to catch someone's attention before they're moving on to the next. And literally they're going to get the headline. And if the headline is enough to be able to pull them in so that they'll actually read it, they might make it through the first page.
We were just talking about that before the podcast, that the first minute had better be gold, because people will listen to a 3-hour podcast, but if they're not sucked in right away. So that's like a challenge for us is, do we manufacture that in this podcast? Do we like say, okay, Jason, we're about to start, and the first 60 seconds it's got to be really good, and that way we'll hook people? Or do we just have genuine conversation? Because are we going to be a part of that movement, or are we going to be a part of that mindset of we got to get people hooked because they won't consume our content? If
we've always been this way, but it's just progressively getting worse. It wasn't with our information, like it's progressed its way into information, but like I can remember as a kid, as a teenager, I guess, watching an interview with Dr. Dre, and Dr. Dre saying, you've got 30 seconds to catch them on a track before they skip.
Totally.
If you can't pull them in the first 30 seconds, the track's done. It's gone. They're going to skip it.
That's the difference between art and entertainment.
But it's also the similarity.
People.
It's similarity between
art
the
should
two.
Be pure.
But it's attention. Like the similarity is that you need to pull this person's attention in right away. And I think social media has changed it, because you don't get a full article in social media. You get memes and you get, one little page. I don't even really use social media that much, so I don't even really know. Like, I couldn't tell you the last time I was on Facebook, so I don't really know what it looks like. Like, I guess you have a link, and then that person can follow the link if they want to go do whatever. But on their page, it's just a blurb.
It just says Trump took a dump in Florida today, and
we're just think about it. You're just going and scrolling through it, and like this is how you're getting all of your information. Like, the truth is, nobody really watches the news. Like, it might be on, but like the vast majority of the population don't just sit down and go, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I'm going to go sit down and watch CNN tonight. Like, we get our news this way, right? We get our news off our phone, and all of that news are one-liners just going, and we're flying through it all day long, all the time. So doesn't that feel like we're being taught to just not look into things, to not require the full story, to accept the concepts that are being thrown at us with no question? For me, like, what am I doing about the things that I think are injustices in the world? What I'm doing is I'm spreading my ideas. I'm having conversations with people, and I'm pointing out things that I found like factually to be true, and spreading that information to the people that are around me. And those people around me, maybe one of them will spread that to someone else. And that's how grassroots movements work, right? That's how they get started.
Yeah. Or start participating in something that's local to you, or stop participating. For example, if you believe JP Morgan Chase is the devil, stop banking at Chase.
Sure.
If you believe that,
be willing to suffer the inconveniences of standing behind your morals.
Totally. If you believe that slavery is bad, then don't participate in it.
That's hard to do.
It is. But people, I mean, you can find tons of resources out there that say, do not go to porn sites, because tons of these girls are trapped in a lifestyle that they don't even want.
If you like the scope of what you're saying as far as like,
or what about this?
There you go. It's very overwhelmed. Like, okay, when you go digging as deep as I have in all of this, every little bit of it, you have many moments where you go through different phases, and you'll go through phases where you feel like you're going out of your mind. Like, this can't be real. Like, the world can't be set up this way. What am I supposed to do about it? And then you come to this really oddly sobering moment of realizing that everything around you that you're surrounded with is corrupted somehow.
It's a byproduct of those things.
There's 6 degrees of separation, right? And that's very disheartening, and that's very sobering. And you're like, well, there goes my favorite TV show, and there goes my favorite this, and now I can't listen to this, whatever.
Sure. Which is why people kill themselves. People go lock themselves in a monastery.
But that's not doing anything.
People.
That's not.
But that's why they separate themselves. They say, if I cannot resolve A, B, C, I will do D.
Well, and some people turn to religion. Some people give it, they turn to God. They give it to God.
If Christianity is manufactured by man, it's brilliant because it takes all the responsibility off the individual and places it on Christ. You're not responsible. He took away all your sins. Therefore, you're not responsible for anything you do that's wrong. You're not responsible for wearing these clothes made by a sex slave because, God will take care of it. But if it's true, then it's also the most beautiful because he will make all things right in the end.
Right.
So I think that where we need to have balance as humanity, that no matter your religion, you have to take responsibility for your individual actions.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. I don't think that I think that everybody needs to be involved in one way or another. I think that people need to take the time to, like, you hear
be on a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, reaching out to the world via podcast, internet, YouTube. But even like, I'm not that type of person. The fact that I'm here right now actually surprises me that I would actually do this with you, even though you may have a big audience. You may not have a very big audience at all. But
today,
the fact that I'm here is actually like a step out for me because I'm a very private person. You know me well enough to know that I am a very private person. I don't put myself out in front of people, but I feel strongly right now that we are all asleep. And that we are on the path to suffering the consequences of the fact that we are asleep. I'm not saying that we need to start like a crazy revolution or blah, 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 or anything like that. I want people to actually start taking the time to look into things, taking the time to take a step back from what they're doing, take a breath, slow down, and look at what's going on around you. Ask questions, weaponize your curiosity. It's important. Today, walking into the pet store, a homeless woman walked inside and was trying to use the restroom, and they came over to her and were telling her she had to leave and she had to go and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And I went and got my dog food, walking out, saw her sitting outside in the sun, just sitting there with nothing to do. Got in my car, went across the parking lot, bought Wendy's, drove back over to the parking lot to give her food because I would rather give people food than money because they have the choice to make bad decisions in their lives, which is their own decision, but I don't want to facilitate that. So I don't give money to people anymore. I will give them what they need. I will give them a means, but I don't give them the opportunity. You should have went and got
a porta potty, it sounds like.
Yeah, I can't help her with that. But like, I went to go give her the food and she wasn't there, but then there happened to be another lady over here that was pushing her cart doing whatever. And I walked over to her and said, do you have a friend? Because I actually had 2 things of food. And I was like, do you have a friend with you? And she's like, no. And I said, okay, well, I was going to give this to somebody and I can't find her. So here, like, this is for you. And gave her food. Why don't people do that more often? Like, I was just telling the story a couple of days ago that, like, growing up, I grew up in Oklahoma with my mom. And growing up in Oklahoma, my mom, I swear, like every day in the wintertime, we would stop and pull someone out in our International Scout 4x4. She would pull someone out of the snow, take the time out of her day, no matter where she was going or what she was doing, to hook them up and help them out. And she stopped. I'll never forget. We were driving down the road and she did this a lot, but this is the one instance. So like, we went to the store, we did all this stuff. I think I was trying to get home to watch G.I. Joe at 3:30 because back in the day, boys and girls,
you had to be home.
You had to be home when it was on or you missed it. And I wanted to get home so bad. And she stopped and had this long conversation with this woman on the way home from the grocery store who was parked on the side of the road with an interstation wagon with her kids with a sign saying she was hungry. And we wound up, my mom came over and said, come on, Jay, like, help me out. We're going to give them these groceries. And we unloaded the entire back of the car, everything we just bought into this lady's thing and got back in our car. She talked to her about Jesus for a little while, said a prayer together, gave her a hug, got in the car. We went back to the store and literally with the same list, bought the same stuff all over again.
And you missed G.I. Joe.
Yeah. And that didn't really matter. I was more like just mesmerized that like wow, that was crazy that we're just doing this all over again. Like, you literally just gave everything that was like so much food. Like, you just filled her station wagon full of stuff, because we were driving a Cadillac like back then with a huge trunk, so much stuff, and she just gave her all of it, every single thing. Why don't we do that anymore? Why don't we care about each other?
Why are
like,
we
there's
divided?
so many people who say that they care, but like, and I'm not saying that everyone's that way. Lots of people do lots of things more than I do.
Sure.
Honestly, there's lots of people who do way more than I do, but there's so many people that like, they do it for the gram. You know, they do it for the likes. They talk about it, they post or whatever, they get the likes, and then they don't do anything. They don't help anybody. They're still walking right past that home, like stepping over the homeless person, you know, on the sidewalk or whatever. But I don't understand it. I don't understand what happened to our humanity.
Where did we lose our united and become divided?
I'm trying to bring it back, man.
Jason Toledo, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, brother. Thank you.